This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 871, The Senntisten Asylum. Enjoy. The Tier 92 whip, everybody's always wanted a whip that can be used at the very high end. You can use this now if you wanted to do dual-wield setup with one of the offhand cold cuts from the Glacier, or an offhand Kopesh if you wanted to keep it at Tier 92. But, I mean, let's be real here. You're going to be better off with one of the cold cuts. So we're looking at about 300 mil-ish right now for this as of recording on Thursday. Tier 92 main hand weapon has a chance to apply for each melee attack, it will apply the Abyssal parasite stack. You can stack it up to 50 times with this. And when you, of course, kill the creature, that parasite spreads to adjacent targets.
So, I mean, there's so much, the interaction work on this is so much to unpack.
Yeah.
I mean, let's do a quick thing on how it works, right? It applies this to parasite stacks up to, again, a max of 50, same as the spikes. This is the problem. What this means is that you have to be attacking the same target for over a minute to fully stack this. If the target's attacking you, you get a few stacks from armor spikes. That's going to help with that. It's going to decrease that time somewhat. Even if you have a large stack of stacks it's transferred from an adjacent target, you can make sure that you lure your previous target next to your next target before it dies, like if you put in the extra effort there. And maybe it'll be half a minute to stack this, but there's not a lot of things that you attack for that long in this game.
Hard mode Carapac.
Hard mode Carapac, and Carapac is a great place because he can't shed stacks. He doesn't have any vulnerability mechanics. He doesn't have any phase change mechanics.
The wiki actually has a list of the Abyssal Parasite hit ranges. For 2 stacks, you're looking between 37 and 62. You go up to 10, it's between...
It's 25 per stack. It's 25 per stack. So 2 stacks is 50, 3 stacks is 75, 4 stacks is 100. It averages to that value.
Yeah, okay.
Don't need to terribly overcomplicate this. At 50 stacks, you're doing 1,250 damage on average every time it hits.
Maximum 1562.
Correct, yep. So 900 to 1,500-ish. No, I did that math wrong. No, I did that math right. 1,000 to 1,500-ish on average. There we go. Yeah, 950 to 1,550. It ends up 1,250. Again, the stacks are really nice. They're a bleed that you can use with the helm, so you don't need to use your expensive armor spikes. You've got the whip. That bleed damage, again, 1,250 every 3 game ticks. Over the course of a minute, it's 33 hits of 1,250, which is, almost 40,000 damage.
Yep.
That's a 10 to 20% damage buff depending on your damage previously. That's what that is. That's humongous. Add that on top of being a tier 92 weapon, and this thing is disgusting. It's so powerful. And in addition, you're guaranteeing 2 extra adrenaline every basic ability because you've always got parasite stacks on your target that you can't not, except for maybe the first attack on something if you didn't kill something else near it. So, big, Scourge good.
Yeah, this honestly really excites me about the melee combat style. I've always felt that way about Magic, but I just went with ranged because that's just a nice, even middle-of-the-road approach. But melee starts to look interesting in some of these cases, but the problem that always comes up in my mind is I can't think of where I would use this.
So, I mean, it's for people that like melee. And the other thing I want to mention before we move on is that, this, we have to compare this to other melee weapons, right? We have to compare it to other things, right? We've already said the Masterwork Spear and the Zook Sword got kind of buffed by the helm because they do fun things by giving you more or extending your bleeds. The outlier in our high tier melee setups are the poor Kopeshes. Sorry guys, you're still out of luck. And the Leng Swords, the cold cuts, right? The Leng Swords, this whip is where the Leng Swords come in. And again, this is one of those things I'm telling you to use an incredibly expensive thing just for Slayer. Sorry in advance. The Leng Swords, because the Leng offhand allows you to use Hurricane or Destroy, dual wielding, even without the main hand, right? You don't need the main hand to get that passive. That's just on the offhand. The tier 85 or 95 versions both have that. What this means is that you can use Hurricane. So if you've got multiple targets around you, you use Hurricane. Every one of those targets now has a parasite stack on it.
You interested yet,
already
Tannis?
taking damage.
Oh yeah, I'm interested, but I'm a melee guy.
This is melee. This is melee. I mean, that's this is the main hand cold cut is being outdone right now. Sorry, Sword of Leng, but the offhand dagger blade of Leng, the stabby one, is for at least AoEing for Slayer, really good with this. I mean, you put again, we're going to talk about things that are worth a lot of money. I'm sorry in advance. You put a Dragon Halberd sweep effect that hits twice everything in front of you. You get 2 stacks on everything in front of you when you use that. Same thing with the Flurry ability. Stacks on everything around you. And Hurricane stack on everything around you again. You can massively stack up things around you, and then you kill the target in front of you with all of these stacks on it. And again, if you're AoEing a group of stuff, you can create massive things. And again, 40,000 damage a minute. You're going to that is enough to one-shot so many Slayer monsters that this thing is going to be so good for AoEing large stacks of monsters that have any amount of any vaguely chonky amount of hit points that you can kind of stack up.
So let's talk Slayers, and we're talking obviously more chonky than regular Abyssal demons. What comes to your mind of where you feel this would be? Demons for this, where you'd feel would be a good spot for these?
I actually think Abyssal demons are a perfect spot for this because they stack up around you. You can get more than one of them on each square. So those hurricanes and flurries apply those big stacks to everybody, and then when they all die, again, 2 square radius, so everything that's within a square of you, all those Abyssal demons attacking you, then get these extra stacks. You could probably, I think it is reasonable to say that you could maintain 30 plus stacks on Abyssal demons just by killing the ones around you, because the ones you're attacking won't get such high stacks.
Now let's say you're coming into this from the Slayer use case, and sure, we're still talking about a very expensive Slayer weapon here. Let's just keep that in our mind, everyone, for this. What would be the benefit? How would you convince somebody to abandon their Scythe or Lanicaeus for this?
I wouldn't.
Okay, and that's where I landed as well at the end of it on the Slayer side.
Though, no, and actually, I kind of take that back, because this is the way that melee has been set up, kind of from the beginning, is that two-handed has better AoEing ability, right? If you want to use a two-hander, if you want to kill a whole bunch of targets at once, you want to use a two-hander. This thing will rival that for anything that you can clump around you. And also, dual wield has always had better single target damage because of Destroy, because of the way that set up is just, it has better single target damage abilities, and worse and fewer options for AoEs. And so your Lanicaeus, your big two-handed, two-range weapons are for enemies that are going to be multiple enemies at once. It's going to be for you could use any of these, I think, for killing stuff in the Sophanum Slayer dungeon, for killing Abyssal demons, everything in that kind of mid-range Slayer, everything that would be in a Slayer cave. Necreals, all of these things are potential options for these.
Slayer in general, anything you're going to melee, it seems like it would be, it would be fine if you just wanted to switch over. I'm really curious. I think this would be good at the new Savages.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, it's kind of hard because I think they are 2x2, aren't they? Or are they 1x1? That you can't, it's harder to get multiple of them around you. But I suppose they could teleport in the same way Abyssal Demons do, that you could stack them if you wanted to AoE. And again, as long as you're killing something or applying one or using an AoE around you, one of those abilities, or killing something every 9 seconds, those stacks will perpetuate. They will stay. They will go from target to target and increase. I mean, if I kill 2 targets with 30 stacks on them, is 30 stacks on anything else that's just walked up on me, right? You could probably stack close to, if you've got many things around you, you'll end up with very, very high stack numbers. 30 stacks is 750 damage, in addition to whatever damage you do with your abilities, every global cooldown. I can't emphasize enough how much damage this thing can potentially do. And again, also for single target, right? If I'm just killing mammoths and they're spread out like no business, there's no reason for me to have a scythe. Scythe isn't going to do anything for me. Having an extra range, I'm still attacking the single target in front of me. This is better single target damage. So it's got an AoE use case, which is really cool because of the way that the bleed spreads. But it also is your best in slot single target weapon. Because the cold cut will have 3 or 4% additional base damage on it, and this will have, as long as you can get a few stacks onto your target before it dies, probably worth it. And again, those stacks can apply poison, so it's an extra 6,000 poison damage a minute, which also does matter. So I don't know. This thing's really good.
The discussion on this makes me want one of them, but I don't use melee in enough places to justify the 300 mil. You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.